The show shouldn't be as good as it is. You would think that just with the idea of building a giant harem that does not discriminate, it's gotta run stale at some point. And honestly, this is around the point in time that I feel like most series that have one little gag to it, and I'm not saying that's all this show has, but at surface level, you would think the gag is a very dense character who basically gets a giant harem while being scared that she's either going to end up dead or exiled, because in terms of the game, that's how her character should be, but she doesn't realize that her character isn't actually that anymore. She's her own person, and it's why these moments basically just rope in new romance after new romance. It's very easy by episode 4, sometimes 6 at the latest, for it to feel like, okay, you clearly are a one-joke pony. That's all you got going for it, that's all you can do. But honestly, seriously, I've been saying it for weeks, there is not a bad character in this show. Legitimately, every character is interesting because even if they start off as like super tropey, like, okay, you can look at, say, Maria and how she is basically the lead character in this game, how basically all the people who fall in love, they fall in love with her. Very easy to say, oh, okay, she's, she gets bullied, she then gets saved by the knight in shining armor. Those are very cliche moments and basically archetypes that so many stories use to rope in, especially when it comes to like Otome game or just dating games in general. Those very cliche routes where the flags are set and a romance starts a brewing. It can be very easy to just look at characters like that and say that's all they are, but because you have a character like Katarina who is like, gotta love her, she's dense as can be, she doesn't realize that everything has already been saved for her and she's not gonna get killed or exiled. But it's great to see, because she's oblivious to actually how she saved her life, in doing so, she forces a character who is designed to be shallow and basically nothing at surface level, because in terms of like Otome games, like especially when it comes to the protagonist, they're basically supposed to be wish fulfillment inserts for the players basically consuming the game. But because you have characters like Katarina, who then saves the day instead of giving the traditional knight in shining armor, it then allows her to start opening up in ways that clearly you wouldn't be able to see in the game because the game is predetermined and there's only a set amount of routes. But then you also have a character like Katarina who is just, she is such a wild card. You have delicious treats on the ground, she does not care. That's pretty much the exact opposite for someone of her upbringing. She should be disgusted by dirt and anything, but she's the type of person who she'll just shove as much food as she can in her mouth because that's just how much she enjoys consuming food, especially if it's tasty, as she says this was. It's really great to me for this episode because this is legitimately the first point where the game, quote-unquote, begins, and it'd be interesting to think if this was where the anime more or less started off, we would feel a lot more worried, but because we can clearly tell every single love interest has basically broken away from the pack, has broken away not following the traditional routes and basically line that it was pretty much laid out before it, we already know the harem has been formed and the harem gets stronger day after day. Just look at goddamn Keith as an example. This boy will not leave her alone, even if it's with her fiance. It's like, logically, that should be okay, but everyone's a part of the harem. Males, females, it does not discriminate, and that's what's so amazing about it. I was actually really happy that they brought in basically the main character that you would play in the game, and it was nice to see how they definitely had some fun with the visual flair, but also just the idea of flags in terms of his narrative. The visual flair, there's plenty of shots where it looks like an Otome game, it looks like a dating sim, and you're just laughing, or at least I know I was. But then when you start getting into the fundamentals, those flags where if a certain character does this, that will then spark a curiosity of love, and if you pursue that curiosity of love and don't betray that, he'll then start blossoming into friendship, to romance, blah blah blah. That's basically how it works. And it's nice to see how basically every flag in this episode starts over here with this character or this character, but it always comes back to Katarina and she doesn't even realize. I think it's amazing where you have just moments where she's shaking down her brother, being like, okay, I need to make sure that he knows I support his love and that I'm not going to stand in the way. This boy has no interest in love other than his sister. Take that how you will, but we all know it's true. And it's hilarious to me because she is so worried, and that worry could easily be stale, could easily be a one-joke pony, but it really doesn't feel it, because every time she opens her mouth or a character looks at her or responds, it feels like it's the first time they're experiencing the whirlwind that is Katarina, and that's why it's so goddamn good. Like, this episode, it feels like it just gets more interesting each week. It honestly does, and I think the reason it is because the longer we watch these characters, the longer we see either new or old characters alike, the more we say, you know what, this actually legitimately feels like it has substance and flavor. And that's something that goes a hell of a long way, because there's so many shows that just, they throw in the potential romance and they just say, hey, whose hair do you like best? Whose eyes do you like best? Whose voice do you like best? What personality do you like best? And personality is a big thing, and I'm not going to say that's a shallow aspect, but with how most anime or dating sims portray the personalities, it's generally pretty shallow. But it's nice to see that instead of just going with, okay, you know, we obviously have to make them a little tropey at first glance because that's basically how it's designed. It's a dating sim, it's just we're watching an anime, but it is a dating sim, that's pretty much how it is. But obviously, the longer you talk and pursue a route, the more you could say, oh, that's actually a real character. But for probably 10 hours of the game, they're all going to feel pretty shallow because that's how they're designed to be. And in a lot of ways, with how we're getting introduced to these characters, it has a very similar feel, as if, okay, pretty much all these characters, they're shallow at first glance, but because everyone joined the harem, like 2 minutes into an episode, immediately we get to learn about them, and whether that's emotional pain or something just from their past, it just feels like we're understanding them at a personal level. And it's going to be really fun to see by the time episode 12 concludes what it's going to look like and how we can look at every single character, because obviously some will be more fleshed out than others. We're not going to kid ourselves. We have 12 episodes as of right now. So, I mean, we're not going to see crazy development for everyone right off the bat. But at the same time, it doesn't feel like anyone's going to be really disposable. And our fan favorites, like I've already said, Keith is one of mine. It's great how he still has his additions to this cast, even though it's a little creepy all at the same time. The show's just fantastic. It's like the best new anime of the season for me, if I'm not counting sequels. It's just something that you can tell you want to keep up with weekly. It's not like killer cliffhangers or anything like that. So it's a very easy, like, wait. It obviously sucks because it's just so fun, but it's something that I know as soon as it's over, I'm going to binge it like that, because it's just that good. It really is. It's something that, I don't know, like, I haven't seen everyone say exactly what I'm saying, like, I love all the characters. I've seen most people say they like the cast overall, but I think they're all really good at the end of the day. They all function different, they all have distinct personalities, and one thing you can give dating sims is they're pretty good more often than not on giving each of, like, the potential romance interests or friendships a different personality. Sure, there's some where it's the same character with a different hair color, not going to say otherwise, but the good ones out there, the ones that are actually well written and things like that, they actually do have pretty good depth for the characters, and it feels like not only are we watching Otome game, the anime, but it actually feels like these characters are supposed to be a part of an Otome game, and that's why the way things happen when it does feel a little convenient or it feels a little just forced, it's like, well, it's a game, that's what it's supposed to be designed as. But then you see how our character Katarina interacts, and it immediately just turns it into something so spectacular, and the show's amazing. To be honest, one of the things I'm most excited about what this show is going to do is anytime there's a show, because obviously, like, these types of stories are very relevant in light novels and even mangas. I'm not saying they're not, but in terms of anime, we don't really see them, and because of how much of a hit this show has been, I have a very strong suspicion that we're going to see an Otome game craze, and that's not going to be a perfect thing. I mean, you can just look back at when Madoka Magica came out. Everyone wanted to be a darker magical girl anime for like 10 years. We're not going to kid ourselves. And there's only a handful that stood out. So I'm not going to say that it's going to be a completely good thing that we're going to get 50 Otome game anime. However, I am looking forward to seeing another 5 that are going to do something similar or different, but just be equally as memorable, because honestly, this show is setting a new path. You can look at stuff like Tower of God, setting a path for webtoons to be able to become anime and have fandoms new and old eat it all up. And you can look at Otome game, and I'm not going to say this is the absolute first anime to ever do something like this, but if you look at what comes out each season, when is the last time we saw something exactly like this or very similar with as good of production and characters as this? It's been a very, very long time, and we're not going to kid ourselves otherwise. So I am excited. I mean, it's going to be interesting because you have the whole Corona situation, so a lot of shit's getting pushed back. Pretty much all the anime from this season is coming out next season. The stuff that was supposed to come out next season is probably going to come out the following season, and so on and so on. But still, it'll be interesting to see what anime are going to say, or just production committees are going to say, that Otome game anime, we need our own version of this. And then they're going to like look to their 100 of light novel options and be like, I guess that name seems alright, and I guess we'll have to go from there. But it's going to be exciting to see what they're going to do with the future of this style of anime, because I think there's a lot of possibilities. Obviously, everything will grow stale eventually, but I think we could have a good dozen shows in this type of style and be very content for sure. I mean, I'm loving it. You know I'm loving it. I've been loving it every single week, and I'll continue to do so. But as always, let me know your thoughts and opinions on episode 4 of Otome game down in that comment section. Did you love it? Do you hate it? And how excited are you for episode 5 next week? Do let me know. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to leave a like, share your support, and remember to hit that subscribe button if you haven't been around here. So until next time, everyone, please take care and have a good one.